80 years ago today, on 24th October 1945, the Charter of the United Nations came into force, signed in a city 12,000 kilometers from Accra. That charter laid the foundation for a global institution that now binds 193 member states, including Ghana, in pursuit of peace, human rights, and development. Since then, the UN's mission has remained anchored in those principles. Why revisit this history when the story of the United Nations is so well known? Because the UN was not born in isolation. It was created by the people, for you, for me, for all of us, and for generations yet to come. Because we must continually highlight its purpose to prevent war, to uphold the dignity of every human being, and to foster development. And because its mission remains as urgent today as it was 8 decades ago when the world was emerging from the devastation of war and the world was yearning for peace. As we pause to reflect on what the United Nations truly stands for, let us also remember what it does every single day in every corner of the world through the collective will of its 193 member states. We together assist and protect more than 139 million people fleeing war, famine, and persecution. We together provide food and other assistance to 123 million people in crisis across over 120 countries. We together help vaccinate nearly half of the world's children, saving over 3 million lives each year. We together work, all 194 nations, to keep global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius. We together maintain peace with more than 60,000 peacekeepers in 11 operations around the world. We together confront the global water crisis which affects billions, and we together protect and promote human rights through over 80 treaties and declarations and resolutions. We together coordinate appeals for $45 billion in humanitarian assistance for over 185 million people. And we together use diplomacy to prevent conflicts, and that includes supporting 50 countries a year with elections and with dialogue. And we help safeguard the health and dignity of over 22 million women and girls through life-saving sexual and reproductive care, and much, much more. This day is about commemoration and reflection on our shared responsibility to uphold the purposes and ideals of the United Nations. We have a system which is built by and is serving every country in the world. It is not perfect, and it is under constant reform, as any great institution must be. But let's remember that the United Nations is humanity's foremost instrument for creating and protecting global public goods, peace, human rights, and a sustainable planet. It must be reshaped to meet the realities of 2045 whilst remaining true to the founding principles set in 1945. And Ghana proudly joins the global family in commemorating 8 decades of commitment to peace, progress, and human dignity. I wish to commend the government of Ghana, especially the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ad Hoc Planning Committee, including the United Nations, for their dedication in organizing these annual observances. They reflect Ghana's leadership and its unwavering commitment to the principles of this global institution. Honorable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, the global theme for this milestone is UN at 80, building our future together. In Ghana, we have chosen a theme which brings the UN closer to our lived realities, and that is United Nations at 80, Ghana and the UN, shared responsibility for a better tomorrow. And this theme reminds us that building a better world is not the burden of one institution or one government. It is a collective duty for all nations and all people. The theme reflects our steadfast commitment to peace and sustainable development, not only for today's citizens, but for young people, for marginalized communities, and for generations unborn. Since joining the United Nations in 1957, just days after independence, Ghana has stood as a strong advocate for multilateralism and collective action. Ghana's contributions to peacekeeping, to diplomacy, and to development reflect its deep belief that peace and prosperity must go hand in hand. Ghana stands tall amongst nations, speaking boldly and with conviction, even in times of global uncertainty, when intimidation and discord threaten the very foundations of diplomacy. We heard the President's statement to the 80th session of the UN General Assembly, and it was loud and clear. His Excellency's call for structural reforms within the United Nations, his call for greater recognition of the role of Africa in shaping the future of the world, and his call for the need to allow multilateralism to work in today's work. They are all highly appreciated and commendable. We thank you, Mr. President. As we mark this 80th anniversary, we must constantly remind ourselves that working together always produces better results. Together we can meet the aspirations of those vegetable sellers in Nima Market who rise at dawn every day to earn a humble living. We must drive the agenda that ensures families in Bolgatanga can put 3 square meals on their tables. We together must strive to provide quality education and healthcare to every single person in this country and across the planet. And we must do all we can do to prevent avoidable deaths. And not because the people demand it of us, but because it is our shared duty to do it. We will know we have succeeded when a 13-year-old girl can ride a bicycle safely and share the road with others, when children can turn on a tap at school and trust the water is safe to drink, when every family can have access to essential social services and live in peace. When we have expanded freedoms and choices to live the lives we value, when we meet the Sustainable Development Goals, that is when we can truly say we have done well. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to read the short message of the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, which he wrote for this day. And I quote, "We, the peoples of the United Nations." These are not just the opening words of our charter, they define who we are. The United Nations is more than an institution, it is a living promise, spanning borders, bridging continents, inspiring generations. For 80 years we have worked to forge peace, to tackle poverty and hunger, to advance human rights and build a more sustainable world together. As we look ahead, we confront challenges of staggering scale, escalating conflicts, climate chaos, runaway technologies, and threats to the very fabric of our institution. This is no time for timidity or retreat. Now more than ever, the world must recommit to solving problems that no nation can solve alone. On this UN Day, let us stand together and fulfill the extraordinary promise of our United Nations and show what is possible when we, the peoples, act as one. End quote. Before I take my seat, Honourable Minister, ladies and gentlemen, let me again commend the government and the people of Ghana for their consistent commitment to the principles on which the United Nations was built: peace, human rights, and sustainable development. Let this day remind us that the future we seek must be built together with resolve, with compassion, and with shared purpose. The same spirit that rebuilt the world in 1945 must renew it again in 2025. Thank you very much.